The massive observation deck of the Zorn Imperial flagship hummed with the quiet efficiency of a civilization that had conquered countless worlds. Holographic displays flickered with stellar cartography, mapping out yet another sector of the galaxy that would soon fall under the Empire's control. Admiral Krelax, a veteran of 300 planetary subjugations, barely glanced at the incoming data stream about a small blue-green planet in a relatively unremarkable solar system. Senior Navigator Vextar approached with the standard preliminary report, his scaled fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "Another primitive world, Admiral," he said, his voice a low rumble that suggested complete disinterest. "Early-stage space exploration. Minimal interplanetary capabilities. Recommendation is standard protocol. Preliminary reconnaissance, followed by diplomatic submission or military pacification." Krelax leaned back in the command chair, mandibles clicking in a gesture of supreme boredom. The Zorn Empire had seen thousands of worlds like this. Young civilizations struggling to break free from their planetary cradle, unaware of the vast and complex galactic society that existed beyond their limited perception. The initial scan revealed a planet teeming with contradictions. Massive communication networks blanketed the globe, yet their technology seemed almost charmingly primitive by galactic standards. Orbital infrastructure was minimal, with only a handful of rudimentary space stations and a scattered collection of exploration vehicles. The planet's inhabitants seemed more focused on internal conflicts and economic challenges than serious space exploration. But something felt different about this world. As more data streamed in, the bridge crew began to notice unusual patterns. The planet's communication networks were extraordinarily complex, with information flowing at rates that suggested a level of technological sophistication that belied their apparent limitations. Multiple language systems, intricate data protocols, and a communication infrastructure that seemed to anticipate and adapt in real time. "Navigator," Krelax called out, a hint of curiosity breaking through the usual bureaucratic monotone. "Run a deeper analysis of their communication systems." Vextar's eyes narrowed as he began a more comprehensive scan. The holographic displays erupted with a kaleidoscope of data streams, each one revealing something more intriguing than the last. Cultural exchanges, scientific research, technological development, all happening at a pace that was almost dizzying. The planet's designation was simple: Earth. But there was nothing simple about what the scans were revealing. Military installations were hidden in plain sight, disguised as research facilities, industrial complexes, and infrastructure projects. Satellite networks that appeared purely communications-based contained sophisticated tracking and defensive capabilities. Even more surprising, these systems were constantly evolving, with new technologies being developed and integrated at an unprecedented rate. Preliminary threat assessment, Vextar announced, indicates a significantly more complex developmental trajectory than standard classification protocols suggest. Krelax leaned forward, mandibles now fully extended in a gesture of genuine interest. The routine mapping expedition was becoming anything but routine. The scans revealed a global society in constant motion. Unlike many developing civilizations that showed clear technological or cultural divisions, this planet demonstrated a remarkable ability to integrate diverse technological approaches. Research from one continent was almost immediately shared and adapted by teams on the opposite side of the planet. More intriguing were the psychological profiles emerging from the communication analysis. These beings didn't just communicate, they did so with a level of creativity that defied standard interstellar communication models. Humor, metaphor, and multilayered communication seemed to be fundamental to their interaction systems. "Prepare a detailed report," Krelax commanded. "This world requires a more nuanced approach than our standard protocols." Little did the Zorn know that their preliminary scan was merely the first glimpse of a civilization that would challenge everything they understood about technological development, cultural integration, and the very nature of intelligent life. Earth had been discovered, and nothing would ever be the same. The moment the first extraterrestrial signal was confirmed, humanity underwent a transformation that would have been impossible just decades earlier. The United Nations Emergency Council convened within hours, bringing together representatives from every corner of the globe through a state-of-the-art quantum communication network. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the lead coordinator of the Global Defense Initiative, stood before a holographic display that showed real-time data from research facilities, military installations, and scientific centers worldwide. Her eyes reflected a mixture of excitement and determination that seemed to capture the spirit of an entire species suddenly confronting its place in the universe. "We are not dealing with a theoretical threat," she began, her voice steady and clear. "We are facing a documented extraterrestrial civilization with advanced technological capabilities. Our response must be unified, adaptive, and unprecedented." The room fell silent. Representatives from nations that had spent generations in conflict now sat shoulder to shoulder, their previous disagreements suddenly seeming monumentally trivial. Military strategists from the United States worked side by side with technology experts from China, while aerospace engineers from Russia collaborated with quantum physicists from India. The first step was a complete global mobilization of scientific and technological resources. Research facilities that had been competing now merged their efforts. Universities worldwide suspended traditional academic boundaries, creating an unprecedented collaborative network. Scientists who had spent careers in narrow specializations now found themselves working on interdisciplinary teams that pushed the boundaries of human knowledge. Satellite networks were rapidly modified. Communication systems were upgraded with adaptive encryption protocols that could change faster than any potential alien decryption attempts could track. Every piece of global infrastructure was simultaneously being fortified and reimagined. The military response was equally impressive. Naval shipyards in multiple countries began constructing a new class of spacecraft that defied traditional design principles. These were not mere vehicles but living systems of technology, ships that could adapt, repair, and reconfigure themselves based on emerging threats. In Japan, a team of robotics experts developed modular defense systems that could rapidly change configuration. European quantum computing centers created predictive algorithms that could model potential alien attack scenarios with unprecedented accuracy. North American aerospace companies developed propulsion systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics. What made the human response truly remarkable was its organic nature. Unlike the hierarchical and rigid Zorn military structure, the human defense network operated more like a living organism. Information flowed freely, innovations were shared instantly, and every setback became an opportunity for creative problem-solving. Dr. Rodriguez's team had developed a revolutionary approach to spacecraft design. Instead of creating massive specialized vessels, they designed modular ships that could reconfigure themselves mid-mission. A vessel might start as a reconnaissance craft and transform into a combat platform or a communication relay within moments. "We're not just building a defense," Dr. Rodriguez explained to her international team. "We're creating a living, breathing system of global cooperation." Underground research facilities were rapidly expanded. Entire cities were subtly modified to serve potential defensive purposes. Infrastructure that had once been designed for economic efficiency was now being reimagined as a potential front in an interstellar conflict. The most surprising element was the global population's response. Instead of panic, there was a sense of collective purpose. Social media platforms became channels of scientific collaboration. Citizens with specialized skills volunteered for unprecedented research initiatives. Universities saw enrollment spike in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics programs. Space agencies that had previously operated on minimal budgets now received unlimited funding. Private aerospace companies that had been working on theoretical space exploration suddenly found themselves at the forefront of humanity's first potential interstellar defense. Within weeks of the initial discovery, humanity had transformed. A species that had been divided by borders, ideologies, and economic differences, now moved with a single unified purpose. The Zorn's preliminary scans had missed the most critical aspect of human potential: the ability to unite, adapt, and innovate when faced with an existential challenge. The United Earth Defense Force was more than a military organization. It was a testament to human potential, a living proof that when pushed to its limits, humanity could achieve the seemingly impossible. The first direct communication between humans and the Zorn fleet was nothing like anyone expected. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Chen sat in the primary communication hub of the United Earth Defense Force's Central Command. Her fingers danced across a holographic interface that looked more like an elaborate musical instrument than a standard communication system. Around her, a diverse team of linguists, mathematicians, and cultural experts worked in perfect synchronization. "Incoming transmission," announced the quantum communication specialist. "Encryption is, well, it's something we've never seen before." The Zorn expected a straightforward military response. Instead, they received a transmission that defied every protocol of interstellar communication. The first message was a series of complex mathematical equations interwoven with what could only be described as an elaborate joke. The equations solved an advanced quantum mechanics problem, while simultaneously constructing a multilayered pun that referenced both human cultural history and theoretical physics. Zorn communication officers stared in complete bewilderment. The mathematical portion of the message demonstrated humanity's advanced understanding of quantum mechanics, showing solutions to problems that the Zorn had considered unsolvable for centuries. The joke portion, embedded within the same transmission, suggested that the serious scientific solution was simultaneously a setup for an elaborate comedic punchline. Lieutenant Commander Chen allowed herself a slight smile. This was exactly the response her team had designed. Each human communication became a psychological weapon. Military coordination happened through channels that looked more like elaborate performance art than standard tactical communication. A squadron might suddenly break formation to spell out a message using their ship positions, or play an intricate game of spatial chess that turned military engagement into a form of cultural expression. The Zorn sensor systems went into overdrive trying to decode these transmissions. What appeared to be random noise was actually a carefully constructed communication system that could convey multiple layers of meaning simultaneously. Technical data, strategic information, and cultural commentary were woven together in ways that completely defied the Zorn's understanding of communication. One particularly memorable transmission involved a human squadron performing what could only be described as a spaceflight ballet. Their ship movements created a complex mathematical pattern that was simultaneously a defensive maneuver, a communication protocol, and a reference to an ancient human dance form. "They're not just fighting," one frustrated Zorn communication analyst reported. "They're performing." The psychological warfare went deeper. Human pilots began inserting cultural references into their communication that would be incomprehensible to the Zorn. A reference to an ancient Earth comedy show would be embedded within a complex tactical communication. A quote from a historical leader would be used as a coded instruction for a squadron-level maneuver. Intercepted communication showed military personnel sharing jokes, developing impromptu strategies, and maintaining an almost impossible level of morale. Every potential moment of tension became an opportunity for creativity. The Zorn leadership began to realize they were facing an opponent that didn't just resist. It transformed challenges into opportunities for expression and innovation. One particularly memorable incident involved a human communication that was simultaneously a complex mathematical proof, a strategic military communication, and an elaborate knock-knock joke. The Zorn decryption team spent weeks trying to understand the full complexity of the transmission, only to realize that the joke was, in itself, part of the communication strategy. Lieutenant Commander Chen understood the deeper strategy. By presenting communication as a form of creative expression, humanity was demonstrating something far more profound than military might. They were showing that conflict could be an opportunity for creativity, that serious strategic thinking could coexist with humor and cultural complexity. The Zorn were slowly beginning to understand that they were facing something entirely unprecedented. This wasn't just a military engagement. This was a first contact scenario that challenged every assumption about intelligent communication. And humanity was just getting started. The research facility looked like controlled chaos. Technicians from every conceivable scientific discipline worked shoulder to shoulder, surrounded by what could only be described as a three-dimensional puzzle of alien technology. Captured Zorn components lay disassembled across massive workstations, each piece treated like a precious artifact waiting to be understood. Dr. Marcus Wong, lead of the Xenotechnology Adaptation Team, stood at the center of the maelstrom. His eyes moved rapidly between holographic displays, each one showing a different perspective of the alien technology they were systematically dismantling and reimagining. It's not about understanding their technology, he explained to a group of visiting military strategists. It's about seeing beyond what they believe is possible. The first breakthrough came unexpectedly. A cooling system component from a Zorn combat vessel, when reconfigured, became an incredibly efficient power generation module. Where the Zorn saw a simple thermal regulation device, the human team saw a potential revolution in energy production. Workshops around the globe began working in parallel. A facility in Brazil might discover a unique application for an alien communication array, while a research center in South Korea would simultaneously develop a completely different approach. Information was shared instantaneously, with each discovery building upon the last at an exponential rate. The Zorn tracking systems began to malfunction in ways that defied their original design. Components that were meant for specific rigid purposes were being adapted into entirely new systems. A weapons targeting mechanism became a revolutionary medical scanning device. A ship's defensive shield generator was reimagined as a planetary climate regulation tool. What made human technological adaptation truly remarkable was the lack of predetermined limitations. Where the Zorn saw a tool with a single purpose, humans saw potential. Every captured piece of technology was an opportunity for creative reimagining. Quantum computing centers worked around the clock, developing simulation models that could predict potential technological transformations. Machine learning algorithms analyzed alien technology from perspectives that the original designers could never have anticipated. One particularly impressive breakthrough involved a Zorn propulsion system component. The original design was meant for faster-than-light travel in a specific galactic region. The human team not only understood its original purpose, but began to explore how its fundamental principles could be applied to entirely different technological domains. We're not just reverse engineering, Dr. Wong would often say. We're having a conversation with technology itself. The military implications were profound. Each captured Zorn vessel became a learning opportunity. Defensive systems were studied, understood, and then completely reimagined. A shield technology designed to protect against energy weapons might be transformed into a medical scanning system that could detect microscopic health anomalies. Global cooperation reached new heights. Universities that had previously competed now shared research in real time. A breakthrough in a small laboratory in India could be integrated into a large-scale project in Canada within hours. The traditional barriers of academic and industrial research simply melted away. Zorn intelligence reports began to show increasing confusion. Their tracking systems couldn't comprehend how quickly human technology was evolving. What should have been a straightforward technological assessment became an impossible puzzle. The captured technology revealed something even more interesting. The Zorn had reached a technological plateau. Their systems were efficient but rigid. They had perfected certain technological approaches and then stopped exploring. Humans, by contrast, saw technology as a constantly evolving conversation. Manufacturing centers around the world were rapidly retooled. 3D printing technologies advanced at an unprecedented rate, allowing for the rapid prototyping of new designs that merged human creativity with alien technological principles. By the time the Zorn realized the full extent of human technological adaptation, it was already too late. What they had considered a simple mapping expedition had turned into an encounter with a species that didn't just adapt to technology. They transformed it. The universe was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in its current capabilities, but in its limitless potential for innovation. The Zorn synapsychology team had spent decades studying hundreds of intelligent species across the galaxy. They prided themselves on their ability to categorize and understand complex cultural systems. But humans defied every known classification. Senior analyst Fornax reviewed the latest communication intercepts with growing frustration. What should have been straightforward military communications were instead elaborate tapestries of meaning that shifted and changed with each analysis. One transmission began with a complex mathematical equation that solved an advanced quantum mechanics problem. Embedded within the same communication was a reference to an ancient Earth comedy routine that seemed to mock the very serious nature of the scientific solution. The joke wasn't just a simple aside. It was intrinsically woven into the communication's core structure. Another intercepted message contained simultaneous layers of meaning. A strategic military deployment was described using the metaphorical language of a sport, with references to an ancient Earth game called baseball. The tactical movements corresponded precisely to the rules and strategies of the game, while simultaneously providing a complete set of coordinates and defensive positioning. The Zorn began to realize that human communication was not just a method of exchanging information. It was a form of cultural expression, a creative act that transformed every interaction into an opportunity for connection and innovation. Cultural research teams worked overtime to understand the human approach. They discovered that humor was not just a social lubricant for humans. It was a fundamental cognitive tool. Where the Zorn saw conflict as a purely strategic endeavor, humans integrated emotional intelligence, creativity, and psychological complexity into every aspect of their interactions. Global communication networks revealed an even more perplexing reality. Humans from different parts of the world, who spoke different languages and came from vastly different cultural backgrounds, could instantaneously collaborate on complex projects. A research team might include a scientist from Nigeria, an engineer from Japan, and a mathematician from Brazil, all working together with a level of synchronization that defied traditional understanding of cultural barriers. The most bewildering aspect was human resilience. Intercepted communication showed military personnel maintaining incredibly high morale, even in potentially devastating situations. Where other species might collapse under psychological pressure, humans seemed to become more creative, more unified, and more determined. One particularly memorable communication intercepted by the Zorn showed a group of human soldiers sharing an elaborate joke during what appeared to be a high-stress tactical situation. The joke was not a distraction, but a method of maintaining psychological equilibrium, of transforming a potential moment of fear into an opportunity for collective strength. Cultural databases struggle to categorize human behavior. Traditional synapsychology models broke down when attempting to analyze human communication patterns. The Zorn discovered that humans had developed entire fields of study dedicated to understanding communication itself. Linguistics, semiotics, cultural anthropology that went far beyond simple information exchange. Music, art, and cultural expression were not separate from scientific and military endeavors, but deeply integrated into them. A strategic military communication might include a reference to a musical composition, with the structure of the communication mirroring the compositional techniques of the referenced work. The Zorn leadership began to understand that they were facing something unprecedented. This was not just a military engagement or a potential conquest. This was a first contact scenario with a species that transformed every interaction into an opportunity for creative expression. Human diplomatic communications became legendary among synapsychology teams. A single message could simultaneously convey serious diplomatic intent, cultural commentary, scientific insight, and a multilayered joke that required deep cultural understanding to fully appreciate. What the Zorn had initially seen as a simple planetary survey was revealing itself to be an encounter with a species that defied every known model of intelligent communication and cultural interaction. The universe was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength was not just its technological or military potential, but its incredible capacity for creative, complex, and deeply meaningful communication. The critical moment arrived with unexpected subtlety. The Zorn had committed their most advanced battle fleet, a collection of warships that had subjugated entire stellar civilizations. Their tactical approach was mathematically perfect, calculated strategies that had worked flawlessly for thousands of years of galactic conquest. But mathematical perfection meant nothing against human unpredictability. The first wave of human response defied every known military protocol. Instead of a straightforward defensive formation, the human fleet began what could only be described as an elaborate spatial dance. Ships moved with a fluidity that suggested they were more than mechanical objects. They were living extensions of human creativity. Tactical communication intercepted by Zorn Command revealed something extraordinary. The human squadron was simultaneously executing a complex defensive maneuver, communicating in a multi-layered linguistic code, and paying tribute to an ancient Earth musical composition. One Zorn tactical analyst reported the situation with mounting confusion. They are not just defending. They are performing. The human fleet used holographic technologies in ways that completely shattered traditional warfare concepts. Projected images created impossible-to-predict battlefield conditions. What appeared to be a massive fleet could suddenly dissolve into a handful of ships, or a single vessel could multiply into dozens of seemingly identical craft. Psychological warfare reached unprecedented levels. Human communication channels broadcast everything from complex mathematical theorems to stand-up comedy routines. Zorn communication systems became overwhelmed, unable to distinguish between critical tactical information and elaborate cultural references. Military strategists on Earth had prepared for this moment with a level of creativity that defied traditional understanding. Each ship was more than a weapon. It was a complex adaptive system capable of instant reconfiguration. Defensive shields could become offensive weapons. Communication arrays could generate tactical interference. The most brilliant aspect of human strategy was its fundamental unpredictability. Where the Zorn expected rigid responses, humans introduced an element of creative chaos. A defensive maneuver might suddenly transform into an offensive strategy, not through brute force, but through an almost artistic reinterpretation of the battlefield. Quantum communication networks allowed for instantaneous strategic adaptation. A tactical idea developed in one part of the battle could be integrated and implemented across the entire human fleet within milliseconds. The result was a living, breathing defensive system that fought and moved like a single organism. Zorn tactical databases began to malfunction. Their predictive algorithms, which had been developed over millennia of conquest, simply could not compute the human approach to conflict. Every time the Zorn thought they had identified a pattern, the humans would introduce a completely unexpected variable. One particularly memorable moment came when a human squadron used their ship formations to create a massive holographic image visible across multiple star systems. The image was simultaneously a tactical communication, a piece of performance art, and a complex mathematical proof. The psychological impact was profound. Other civilizations that had long suffered under Zorn expansion watched in fascination. Here was a species that approached potential annihilation with a combination of serious strategic thinking and remarkable creative expression. Human military personnel maintained an impossible level of morale. Intercepted communications showed soldiers sharing jokes, developing impromptu strategies, and treating the entire conflict as an opportunity for collective creativity. Fear was transformed into a kind of collaborative performance. The Zorn leadership began to realize they were facing something unprecedented. This was not just a military engagement. This was a fundamental challenge to their understanding of intelligent conflict. As the battle progressed, it became clear that humanity's greatest weapon was not its technology, nor its strategic capabilities. It was the ability to transform even the most serious circumstances into an opportunity for creative expression. The universe was about to learn that conflict, for humans, was never just about survival. It was about pushing the boundaries of what was possible. News traveled faster than light through the intricate communication networks of the galactic community. What began as a simple mapping expedition by the Zorn Empire had transformed into a legendary tale of unexpected resistance. On countless worlds, species that had long suffered under Zorn expansion began to pay attention. Transmission networks buzzed with stories of the humans, a species that seemed to defy every known rule of interstellar engagement. The Galactic Communication Nexus, a massive network that served as the primary information exchange for sentient civilizations, became flooded with accounts of human creativity. Diplomatic channels, research archives, and cultural databases began to paint a picture of humanity that was nothing short of revolutionary. Representatives from subjugated civilizations gathered in hidden communication chambers, sharing fragments of intercepted human transmissions. Each story seemed more incredible than the last, a defensive maneuver that was simultaneously a mathematical proof, a tactical communication that embedded an entire cultural history within its structure, military strategies that seemed to blur the lines between warfare, art, and philosophical expression. What made the human approach truly remarkable was its fundamental rejection of established galactic paradigms. Where other species saw conflict as a zero-sum game, humans transformed every challenge into an opportunity for creative problem-solving. Research teams across multiple star systems began studying human communication patterns. Linguistic experts discovered that human languages were living, breathing systems that could adapt and transform with incredible speed. A single human communication could carry multiple layers of meaning: scientific, emotional, strategic, and cultural, all woven together in a complex tapestry of expression. The most surprising revelations came from the scientific community. Captured human research data showed a level of interdisciplinary thinking that was unprecedented. A medical breakthrough might be developed using principles from art, mathematics, and cultural anthropology. Engineering solutions drew inspiration from musical composition and ecological systems. Diplomatic archives began to fill with accounts of human interactions, where traditional galactic diplomacy relied on rigid protocols and carefully measured responses. Humans introduced an element of unpredictability that was both terrifying and fascinating. One particularly memorable transmission showed a human diplomatic team resolving a complex interstellar dispute using a combination of advanced game theory, cultural references, and what could only be described as an elaborate joke. The solution was so creative that it rendered previous conflict resolution models completely obsolete. Technological databases across the galaxy began to track human innovation. The speed at which humans adapted alien technology was unprecedented. What took other civilizations generations to develop, humans seemed to accomplish in weeks or even days. Cultural anthropologists noted something even more profound. Humans didn't just adapt to challenges. They seemed to thrive on them. Where other species might become rigid or defensive when confronted with the unknown, humans became more creative, more unified, more determined. The Zorn Empire's reputation began to crumble. What had once been seen as an inevitable, unstoppable force of galactic conquest now appeared vulnerable. Other expansionist civilizations began to reassess their own strategies, wondering if the human approach might offer a more dynamic path to growth and understanding. Research centers developed entire new fields of study focused on understanding human potential. Interdisciplinary teams worked to decode the fundamental principles that made human creativity so unique. How could a species simultaneously be so serious and so playful, so technologically advanced, and so culturally complex? As the story spread, something remarkable happened. Species that had been isolated or oppressed began to see humanity as a symbol of hope. Here was a civilization that refused to be defined by limitations, that saw every challenge as an opportunity for creative expression. The galactic community was discovering that humanity was not just another species to be categorized or conquered. They were a fundamental force of innovation, a testament to the incredible potential of intelligent life. The universe was about to change, and humanity was leading the way. The final confrontation defied every expectation of traditional galactic diplomacy. The Zorn leadership assembled in their most sacred diplomatic chamber, a massive crystalline space that had witnessed the submission of countless civilizations. They expected a formal surrender negotiation, a ritualistic process that had been perfected over millennia of galactic conquests. Instead, they received an invitation. The human diplomatic transmission arrived with multiple layers of communication. It was simultaneously a formal diplomatic document, a complex mathematical proof, and what could only be described as an elaborate performance piece. Embedded within the communication was a comprehensive analysis of the entire conflict, complete with cultural references, strategic insights, and an underlying current of unexpected humor. Representatives from multiple galactic civilizations tuned in to watch what was expected to be a simple surrender process. What they witnessed was nothing short of revolutionary. The human delegation arrived not with military generals or stern diplomats, but with a diverse team that included scientists, artists, cultural experts, and what appeared to be comedians. Their presentation was a masterpiece of multidisciplinary communication. The first hour of the negotiation was dedicated to a comprehensive analysis of the conflict. But this was no dry military report. It was a dynamic presentation that wove together scientific analysis, cultural insights, and a narrative that transformed the entire war into a profound learning experience. Mathematical models demonstrated the strategic brilliance of human defensive tactics. Cultural analysts explained the psychological complexities that had rendered Zorn military strategies ineffective. Artists provided visual representations that made complex strategic concepts immediately understandable. The comedians played a crucial role. Each joke was carefully constructed to convey deeper meaning, breaking down complex diplomatic concepts into digestible, emotionally resonant narratives. They transformed the potentially tense negotiation into a shared learning experience. What made the presentation truly remarkable was its fundamental approach. The humans were not seeking revenge or total domination. They were offering a comprehensive path forward, a model of interstellar cooperation that went beyond traditional concepts of conquest and surrender. The Zorn leadership found themselves in an unprecedented situation. This was not a negotiation of defeat, but a collaborative reimagining of interstellar relations. The humans presented a vision of galactic cooperation that was so comprehensive, so innovative, that it rendered the entire concept of war obsolete. Technological exchange proposals demonstrated how human adaptability could benefit multiple civilizations. Scientific breakthroughs were offered freely, with the understanding that shared knowledge would benefit everyone. The humans transformed the surrender into an opportunity for collective growth. Cultural exchange programs were proposed that went far beyond traditional diplomatic missions. Artists, scientists, philosophers, and educators would be exchanged, creating a network of understanding that could prevent future conflicts. The most shocking element was the humans' approach to reparations. Instead of demanding resources or territorial concessions, they proposed collaborative projects that would benefit both the Zorn and other subjugated civilizations. Infrastructure development, scientific research, cultural preservation. Every proposal was designed to create mutual benefit. As the negotiations progressed, something extraordinary happened. Other civilizations watching the transmission began to see a new model of interstellar relations. This was not about conquest or submission, but about collective potential. The Zorn leadership realized they were facing a fundamental transformation of galactic civilization. The humans were not just winning a war, they were reimagining the very concept of conflict. When the final agreement was signed, it was less a surrender and more a new beginning. The document was a complex, multi-layered creation that served as both a legal agreement and a work of collaborative art. It included scientific annotations, cultural references, and even embedded mathematical proofs that demonstrated the agreement's comprehensive nature. The universe watched as humanity demonstrated that the most powerful force was not military might, but the ability to transform challenges into opportunities for collective growth. Civilization would never be the same.